Hi everybody, I'm Anna, and today we're going to look at 3 different mystery seeds that we are going to plant today. As you watch this video, you'll see the 3 different seeds. We'll learn a little bit about each one, we'll plant them, and then we'll start to figure out what the mystery is. What kind of seeds are these? You should have 2 big seeds like this, 2 medium-sized seeds like this, and 3 teeny tiny seeds that look like this. I don't know if you can see that on a video screen. It's so small. I'll show you one closer up in a second. Be very careful not to drop your seeds. That's why you have more than one of each kind. It's okay if you lose a few, but make sure that you at least have one of each kind. Here are some pictures of our seeds up close. Can you see those big seeds? Notice the little black marking on the top and the way that it feels in your fingers. It should have a nice little groove in the middle. Now let's look closer at the medium-sized seed. In this picture, you're seeing both dried and wet versions of this seed. The one you have looks most like the brown one that you see in the picture. See how weird and wrinkly it is? If you roll this seed around in your fingers, what does it feel like? Is it smooth or is it rough? Lastly, let's look up close at the teeny tiny seeds. They're almost round. Be really careful not to drop these seeds. They can escape easily. In your kit, you're also going to have a journal, which looks something like this. You can use your journal in a couple of different ways. As you go through these mysteries, you can take notes about each of the mysteries and make a guess about what your mystery might include. For example, you could write down the clues on the pages of the journal and then record your different ideas about what your seeds might be. For example, you could do it like this. I wrote down my clues for seed number 1. As we go, you'll see what these are. Another way that you can use your journal is to use it to record the life of your plant, which will also help you solve this mystery. Every day, or each week, you could draw a picture of your plant and record what's changed about it from the day before or the week before. As your plant gets older, it will become more distinctive, which means that you'll be able to tell a little bit easier each day what it is. Here's an example. After the first week, my plant in its container has 2 big leaves and it has a stem. As my plant grows up, I might add in more details for each week so that I can solve the mystery. Let's take a pause here to prep our pots. In your kit, you should have 3 pots that look like this. You should also have a bag of soil. Take your soil and pour it into each of the pots so that they're evenly filled with soil. You'll want to fill them up as much as you can, but if you can't fill them all the way to the top, that's okay. You're also going to want to break up any pieces of dirt that you find in there, which you probably just saw me doing with my hands. As we plant each seed, I'm going to give you a couple of clues about it. Once your plants start to grow, you'll be able to take these clues and put them together to solve the mystery. But we won't be able to know what they are until they start to grow. If you want to write down some of your guesses and ideas and some of your clues in your journal, you can do that. Let's start with our first seed, the big one. This big seed is in the same family as this red seed, this brown seed, this black seed, and this green seed. Do these seeds remind you of anything you've eaten before? Maybe you've eaten them in a chili or a taco. This is me with an adult version of this plant. So if you've seen this outside before, you might recognize it. It's almost as tall as you are, and it has white flowers. My last hint is that this is a seed that you can find inside of a pod. Do you have a guess of what this plant might be? Maybe you could write it down in your journal and see if you're right. What we're going to do next is we're going to plant this seed, and then we're going to plant the other couple of seeds. At the end of this video, you'll see what your seed will look like once it starts to sprout, and that will help you solve this mystery. It's going to take some patience, but that's what good mysteries are about. You should have your 3 containers ready to go. Your mystery seed is going to go inside of your first container. Make a thumbs up sign with your thumb. Take your thumb and put it in one of your containers, as far down as you can go. Then take your mystery seed and push it in as deep as your thumbprint. If you still have both of your seeds, you're going to want to make sure there's enough room for both of them. When you plant your seeds, you're going to take your thumb and make 2 thumbprints. 1, and then give more space for 2. Then you're going to take your plant, your seed, take your thumb, push it in, 1, making sure there's enough space for the other one, 2. Then cover them up. We'll water these at the end. Now, let's move on to the second one. Remember this one? This one is wrinkly and weird shaped. This next seed grows into a plant that you've probably seen before. I want you to think about all of the plants that you've ever passed on the sidewalk and see if this one reminds you of any of them. I would bet you that you've seen this one when you've just been walking around your neighborhood. You might see it in a garden, but it's also very possible that you've seen it growing in a sidewalk, in the middle of the road, or outside of somebody's house. It often grows all over the place, so sometimes it makes a really big bush, and sometimes it climbs up a fence. If you've seen this plant before, you might know this cool trick about its leaves. When this plant grows up, if you put water on its leaves, it will sit on top of the leaf like a little jewel. My second hint is that this seed grows up into something that when you eat it is very spicy. My third hint is that this is a plant that makes red, orange, and yellow flowers. Do you have a guess about seed number 2? This is a great moment for your journal. Here's what I wrote about seed number 2. First, I drew a little picture. Then, I wrote some descriptive words and some information about it. I know that it's wrinkly, I hear that it will taste spicy, and I know it has cool leaves. I think it is... I'm not going to tell you! This is where you can write down your idea about what you think this seed might be. Now let's plant it. Because this seed is a little bit smaller than our other seed, we're going to make a hole that's a little bit less big. Take your finger and make a little hole not as deep as your thumb can go. I'm pushing to about this part of my finger, just past my nail. Once I have my holes, I want to make sure there's enough room for all of them, depending on how many I have. If I just have one hole. If I have 2 holes, 3 holes, etc. I'm going to take my seed, drop it in the hole, take my next seed, drop it in my next hole, cover them up, and we'll water at the end. Only one mystery left. What could it be? Remember these teeny tiny seeds? Let's go through our clues about our teeny tiny seeds and see if we can guess what they are. My first hint about this seed is that it grows into a plant where you eat the root. This plant is related to kale, broccoli, and collard greens. All of those plants, we eat either the flowers or the leaves. This is the one member of the family where we eat the roots. These are the leaves of our mystery vegetable. Remember, we eat the roots. But can you see how they look like the broccoli, the kale, and the collard green? My last hint is that this plant is usually red. It does come in a lot of different colors, but red is the most common. Have a guess about this seed? I bet it's something that you've eaten before. Write down your guess if you want to. We're going to plant it, and then I'm going to show you what all of these seeds will look like as they grow up, so that we can find out what they are. Because the seed is so tiny, we want to make sure we don't put it too deep into our pot. I'm going to draw a line on top of the soil in my third pot. Then I'll take however many seeds I have and lay them down on the line. If I have 3, I'll spread them out 1, 2, 3. But if I only have 1, I'll just drop it right in there. 1. And then I'll cover it up very gently. You'll almost feel like you're not burying it at all. But remember, the seed has to work really, really hard to get to the surface. So it doesn't need to be too deep down there. Ready to water our seeds? The easiest way to do this is with a cup of water, but I'll also show you how to do it at a sink in case you don't have a cup. You'll want to water each of your seeds very slowly. Remember, the water might drip out the bottom, so you're going to want to do this in a place that can get wet. With your cup, pour a little bit of water very gently into each container. I find it easier to count to the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Stop. 1, 2, 3. Stop. Make sure you don't see your seeds floating on the surface. If you do, just take your finger and gently nudge them back inside. Your soil is probably very dry, so it's going to take a couple of minutes for it to absorb all of the water. Once it's done that, you'll want to check again and see if it's still wet. Mine are still a little bit dry after about a minute of sitting with the water, so I'm going to do one more pour of 3 seconds each. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Stop. 1, 2, 3. Stop. 1, 2, 3. Stop. Doing this in a sink, you're going to want to turn the water on just so that it's dripping. You're going to count to 3 as you pass the seeds through. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Now it's time to be patient. You're going to need to water your seeds every day, and you're going to want them to be in a sunny place where they're not going to be too hot. Sun and water are the 2 main things that your seeds will need to grow. Don't worry if it takes almost 2 weeks for your plants to show up. That's okay. It's going to take some time. Here's your first seed starting to sprout. After about a week, you'll see its green little stem starting to push out of the soil. After about 2 weeks, this is what your seed is going to look like. As your plant starts getting bigger, it will start branching off and making little tufts of leaves. Notice that they still have the same shape as your sprout. As it gets bigger, eventually it will make white flowers, and the flowers will turn into pods, which will then have beans inside. After thinking about our mysteries and looking at this one, are you ready to find out what it is? It's a fava bean! Fava beans are great because you can eat the leaves, stems, and flowers in addition to the beans. Here's what our second seed will look like after about a week or 2. It'll start to make these little leaves that look kind of like lily pads. As your plant gets older, the leaves will get more round, and you'll be able to see those distinct white veins. Once these plants get going, it's hard to stop them. Here they are after about 3 weeks, and if you let them go for a while, they'll take over, like this plant that's spilling over onto this person's sidewalk. Of course, the thing that this plant is most known for is its beautiful orange, red, and yellow flowers. These will come about 5 to 6 weeks in. Thinking back on our mystery and remembering that this is something that makes flowers, got a guess? It's a nasturtium flower. That's a big word. Let's say it together. Nasturtium. You can eat the flowers and the leaves, but remember, they're spicy. Finally, our last mystery. This one will probably grow quickly, and it has these beautiful heart-shaped leaves. Sometimes these seeds sprout in just a few days. This is what they'll look like at the beginning of their life. As this plant grows, It's almost impossible to tell it apart from this plant, which is kale, and this next plant, which is broccoli. They look really similar at the beginning of their lives. About 2 weeks in, this plant will get what are called true leaves, which start to show you what it is. You can see those next to the little heart-shaped leaves. After about 3 to 4 weeks, you'll see the root of this plant starting to pop out of the soil. You'll see its round shoulders just at the top of the soil, with the sprout on top. When you see that, it's time to pick that plant and eat it. Remember, this one is a root vegetable. Do you have a guess? It's a radish! You'll know your radish is ready to eat because you'll see its root poking out of the ground. You can also eat the leaves of a radish. They're a little bit spicy. Sometimes our seeds won't grow. That's okay. It doesn't mean that we did anything wrong as gardeners. Sometimes it just wasn't the right time for that seed. The best thing to do is to keep watering them, checking on them every day, and making sure that they're getting lots of sun. Good luck with your plants, and I hope to see you soon.